Former Steeler and Super Bowl champion Mike Logan live in studio every week during Steelers season for 1 hour of the best football talk heard anywhere.
60 minutes of hard-nosed physical football, am I right, man?
Mike Logan on TribLIVE Radio, Trib Total Media. See what's next. The Mike Logan Show is brought to you by Frank Walker Law, criminal defense and injury lawyer. Online at frankwalkerlaw.com.
The Mike Logan Show is also brought to you by WHOLEY'S Alaskan Grill.
Well, I remember very well, Guy Junker, that moment in the snow at Heinz Field when Mike Logan ran over Brian Urlacher. I really thought that sparked the 05 Steelers to a championship.
Yeah, but then the game started.
You remember me being the ultimate cheerleader on the sideline as Jerome Bettis ran over Brian Urlacher.
Did Le'Veon Bell's run with Ray Maualuga sort of brushed aside remind you any of that in the win yesterday in Cincinnati, Mike?
You know what? This young man impresses me more day in and day out as I get to watch him. Just the way he operates, it seems like we made this big fuss about him being overworked, and they should have gave Garrett Blount a couple carries to satisfy him so Le'Veon Bell wouldn't get worn down. But he seems to get better with the heavier workload that's placed on his shoulders.
And it was obvious the game plan yesterday was to check down to him. If they were in trouble, he was a safety valve constantly, and it worked really well. I mean, I was thinking of John a lot yesterday, Ken, doing the show. I wonder if he sees anything special in him now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and Giovanni Bernard was also Stag's guy. He didn't get much of a chance yesterday. What made the difference? Was it the Andy Dalton fumble, or do you give the Steelers credit for coming alive on offense at the right time?
I think it's a little bit of both. Anytime you get a big turnover like that against a division rival, it's going to spark your team. But the offense was able to put together some drives, some impressive drives, spread the ball out, and utilize the run game, which is going to open up a multitude of things that you can do with your offense. So I think it was a little bit of both. That turnover definitely sparked the defense, and even though they were getting picked apart in their secondary a little bit, and A.J. Green had a big game, they were able to create some turnovers and give the offense back the ball.
Yeah, I think the time of the game that came, Ken, because Bella just had that huge run, and then they stalled inside the 20 again and kicked the field goal. Even though they were within a point, that was twice in the game. They had great field position and came away with field goals, and it was starting to look like you were hoping. At that point, going into the fourth quarter, it was tough to hope that the defense was going to keep them scoreless the rest of the way. And I'm thinking they're going to need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion somewhere here to tie this thing up. And that turned everything around, and it really seemed to deflate Cincinnati because they were lifeless once that turnover happened.
Yeah. Well, give the Steelers credit to be mentally tough. They went down a couple of times in the game, right, and were able to come back and resurge and also hit a couple big plays. Roethlisberger, Mike, had one of the worst games, certainly of the season, against the Saints. At least a nice deep ball there to Martavis Bryant to put the dagger in the heart.
Yeah, and, I always got to revert back to my fantasy football team, and it, tears my heart up because I got guys who were from the opposing team on my team. So yesterday I had A.J. Green as a receiver, and I picked up Martavis Bryant.
Wow.
In the 2 weeks ago, and then he comes up with that big play, and I think that's going to give me the victory. And got to see the young man for the first time down in the waterfront. He popped into a get-go, and everyone's looking at me, and they're like, hey, aren't you? And then Martavis walks in, and they're like, forget you, and they're all running over to greet him and high-five him. So thanks for the touchdown, and good to meet you, young man.
Well, is he their number 2 guy? I mean, was he ascended past Marcus Wheaton, or is it just still too small of a sample size? A couple of big catches, 7 TDs in 7 games? I
think he's going to be that go-to guy. Every game he's gaining more valuable experience. And, early in that game I'm thinking he's not getting the ball, he's not going to get an opportunity, but they use him for that big play spark. And as he gets more comfortable in there and learning all the little nuances of the game, he's going to be their number 2 guy. And why not? He has the size, he showed you off the speed, and he has big play capability. So I think they've been looking for that since they let Mike Wallace go to Miami.
I think there are different kinds of receivers. I think Wheaton could wind up being more like a Hines Ward kind of guy, more possession, get the first downs, and he could be more like a Mike Wallace kind of guy, not in height, but I mean in big play capability. I think there's certainly room for both of them. And you think about the young money guys when they started out, Ken, they didn't put up in gigantic numbers, and now they're all putting up big numbers in 3 different places. So you got to wait for these guys to develop a little bit. And really, this is Wheaton's rookie year with was messed up as he was last year with all his hand problems.
Well, as we sit here today, the Steelers in a playoff position. Most points in a fourth quarter since 1986 for this franchise. Wow. 25 fourth quarter points, and the Steelers right now tied with the Ravens, but have that slight edge in the tiebreaker. We'll be talking about it all week. Ken Laird, Guy Junker, Mike Logan here on TribLIVE Radio.